is up, everybody? Happy week of Christmas. We are a podcast called Hops Geek News. If you are here, you already know that, but I am Matt. Alongside me is Lauren. And if you want to find us, go ahead and search Hops Geek News on any social media platform. Go to YouTube, go to TikTok, all the good stuff. Search our episodes by searching Hops Geek News on any podcasting platform as well. And today's episode, we are joined by a really, really fun guest, Laurie Cunningham, aka Laurie. She is from ASAP Imagination, and we're going to talk about her comic book Sister Grimm as well as Mickey's Christmas Carol. With that said, thanks for hanging out. We'll get to what we're going to drink a little bit later for that portion of the episode. And so let's go into what we messed up or what we've been looking into. Tim's cameo. What is Tim's cameo, Lauren?
So Tim hit me up and said, when I was referring to Hayden Christensen, I called him Christian Haydenson.
Well, you know, sometimes you have one beer and things get crazy. So how dare you? I can't believe I didn't catch that because how dare you?
I didn't either.
Dare you?
But Tim said it was a bit of a Yoda-esque way to say his name. So take it, I will.
The bill fits. Yeah. So, hey, look, we finally got it. Shout out to Tim. He's our cameo of the week. If we don't really have anything, well, we've been reading or watching a lot of stuff. So if you guys want to see what we've been reading or watching, we've been doing a 25 days of Christmas over on TikTok because it is Christmas season. And make sure, first of all, get your Christmas shopping done. Christmas is Sunday. Go get your Christmas shopping done. And if you're like me, you probably wait till the last minute anyways. However, I've been done with my Christmas shopping for a change. Anyway,
I already got 2 Amazon packages running late, motherfuckers.
Oh my God. Amazon has slipped. There is no overnight delivery anymore with Amazon, and they're trash. But that's neither here nor there. Go to our TikTok. We've been watching a ton of Christmas movies because I don't watch anything other than Christmas movies this time of year. I just don't. So that's what we've been doing. So before we get to our main topic, let's roll into some news real quick. I do have a lot of news, not really a lot, but first things first, Super Nintendo World will be opening Universal Studios Hollywood on February 17th. That's pretty exciting. It's been in the works, and Super Nintendo World sounds really cool. So I can't wait for that. Scream 6 had a teaser trailer drop and a poster. Now we see our heroes, if you will, from Scream 5. They're on a train in New York City, and there's a few different ghost faces that are appearing. And now I want to go on the record and say that I think the Scream 5, they were talking about a Reddit hive mind. So I think we're getting copycat killers. It's achieved cult status now, Ghostface's cult-like. And so these people on Reddit are now taking to the streets and maybe terrorizing the survivors of the 5th film, and maybe Gail gets her death and all of that kind of good stuff being in New York City. But I'm telling it now, copycat killers, that's what I'm going with. Really excited to see how that plays out. Now some DC news. Oh, well, yeah, we'll go DC news, and then I got some Star Wars news. So DC news, Cavill's out.
It's rough.
He is confirmed on Instagram. James Gunn confirmed it. They had a discussion. Henry Cavill was really bummed in his Instagram thing. James Gunn, on the other hand, was like, we had great discussions and we want to work together in the future. Meanwhile, Henry Cavill is just like, this sucks.
Isn't that why he gave up Witcher?
There were some other things. He kind of got forced out of The Witcher. There were some things behind the scenes there. But he's lost The Witcher and he's lost Superman, 2 roles that he was perfect for, like Geralt and Superman, Clark Kent. And he never really got a fair shake as Superman. But I am all about blowing up the Snyderverse. I enjoyed those movies, but let's blow it up. But Henry Cavill was a great Superman, and he never had a fair shake at playing the character. So it really isn't fair. It sucks.
I think and also, you know, when James Gunn said, you know, I want to focus on a younger Superman, I feel like it's like doing the origin of Spider-Man again, or watching Batman's parents again. Like there's been a ton of like Clark Kent becoming Superman. Hell, there was a 10-year show called Smallville. Like I'd love to see Superman get older and have him
to begin with.
100%. I think he's like literally like
he's 38 or something like that.
No, he's like a month younger than me or a month older than me or something. Like he's 39. I looked it up. I always, whenever I'm like, oh, that guy's hot, I'm like, I'm gonna see how old he is.
That's what I'm saying. Like what do you mean?
I want to be creepy.
He's a beefcake, a stud, and he's still young. He could be doing, if The Rock is playing Black Adam and he's like 55, then Henry Cavill could play Superman for 10 to 15 years if he wanted.
Well, and it'd almost be fun because they've made comments about how Superman won't age as fast as other people. And it would almost be interesting to see him have children that almost look his age or have a wife who looks older than him. And this is Clark Kent, I don't want to talk too much like about the comic Invincible, but that had a really interesting storyline towards the end where it's, the guy doesn't age as quick and he's dating a mortal and whatnot. But then there's more to that. But go read Invincible. If you've never read Invincible, go read Invincible.
Yeah, but meanwhile,
it would be fun.
J.J. Abrams' Superman's still in development. I don't know why in the hell we're doing that. And then we debunked the rumor that Robert Pattinson is going to be folded in. That got debunked. But Ben Affleck, meanwhile, wants to direct a DC movie. So I guess he's going to direct a DC movie. All in all, we're getting a hard reboot. What this means for Shazam, what this means for Flash, what this means for Aquaman. It's like
Shazam hasn't even come out.
I love Shazam. Shazam, the character Shazam, the movie was great. Apparently, Black Adam, The Rock, was asked to cameo in Shazam, and he turned it down. So, if we just get rid of The Rock, period, I'm fine with this. I just tired of him. Don't be a character. He wanted to. I liked Black Adam, but he just wanted to fight Superman and probably win. Like that's his whole thing. He just completely ignores Shazam. So it sucks. But I really like Shazam. I like Zachary Levi. So now we're just going to have to hard reboot everything. Like what happens to them? And then Peacemaker's still going to be, I don't know. So
Peacemaker damn well better continue. But that was James Gunn baby before.
Exactly. So Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad will probably stick around. So I guess
this is just a shit show and a half.
They have their plan laid out. They are going to pitch it and we're going to hear about it after the new year. So more. So
they're just picking and choosing what we're supposed to remember, basically. So we're supposed to forget there was Peacemaker cameos in Black Adam, or what they're just going to say it was a different universe.
I don't know. I guess we're going to find out in January. So there's that. But some good news. Apparently, Hayden Christensen has filmed fight.
Sure, it's not Christian Haydenson.
Yes, that man right there has filmed fight sequences, Clone Wars era fight sequences with Ahsoka Tano in the filming for Ahsoka, the television show for Disney Plus. So Hayden Christensen, our boy, is back. I am here for the Hayden Christensen assance. So
definitely
give me it. Just give me it all. I want it all. But what news do you have?
Not much at all. Warrior Nun canceled on Netflix after 2 seasons. Shocking.
Never even saw it, but I
watched the trailer for it. I never watched it.
It's like at a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. So the fact that they canceled it already, it's like, I'm not surprised. But at the same time, it's like, what are we doing, Netflix?
I feel like people need to stop watching Netflix originals, and obviously it's very hypocritical because I do, but it's just like we need to kind of stand up for ourselves and be like, stop screwing us over.
Yeah.
Strange World, that Disney movie that tanked, that there's been some controversy behind, will be on Disney Plus on December 23rd if you want to check it out.
I will.
And my last piece of news, this one was actually sent to me by my friend Jessica, who I've mentioned multiple times on this podcast.
Jessica.
Iron Man she wouldn't understand that reference. Iron Man has been chosen for the National Film Registry, which is housed in the Library of Congress, which has selected movies since 1988 for preservation based on their cultural and historic importance.
It's the movie that got the MCU started.
I mean, that movie
with The Dark Knight and one other comic book movie.
Well, I made the comment. I was like, of course it was. This movie literally changed the world to an extent. And she's like, Tony Stark isn't real. I'm like, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, people believe in Jesus and he's not real. So take that for what you will.
Tony Stark is real in my heart.
Tony Stark. It's real to me. Leave Tony alone.
That's what I got.
That's cool. It's great. I mean, Iron Man is like one of the best MCU movies and it got it all started. So
this is a great time of year to watch Iron Man 3.
No, it is never a great time of year to watch Iron Man 3. Fun fact. Just don't do it.
It's not the worst one. Iron Man 2 is.
Don't ruin it.
I said what I said. We had a whole episode on this.
Miss me with that. No. Iron Man 2 is a good movie.
The awkward roof scenes with Gwyneth Paltrow and Robert Downey Jr.
Iron Man 3 was awful. There's no.
I mean, it wasn't the best.
It was terrible. Whatever. The people don't care about this argument right now. That's all we have for news this week. That's all we have for all of our good stuff. So we will be back in just a moment after a message from these sponsors to talk Sister Grimm, the comic book from Laurie Cunningham, Lakala Cunningham. And then we're also going to chat about, just the joys of parenthood and Mickey's Christmas Carol. So stick around and we will see you in a moment. Yes, the quotation marks joys. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We have a fantastic guest. We have a lot of good comics to talk about. But first, I got to let you know that I'm drinking a delicious Shipyard Pumpkinhead, which is like, you know, Northeastern me. You hear about me talking about this all the time. Yeah, of course I'm drinking it. And I got some really good news too, that I hopefully be drinking at the brewery here in March. So Shipyard Brewing Pumpkinhead, that's my go-to beer this time of year. Lauren, what are you drinking for this portion of the episode? This is unofficially sponsored by...
I am drinking a Southern Tier Brewing Frosted Sugar Cookie Imperial Ale.
Oh
I haven't had this one before.
Way too excessive. My God. What?
I guess the sugar must have just gone right to my head. I'm ready to go.
It's in a bottle?
It's actually a bottle. I just did one of those Total Wine trips.
Drinking bottles tonight.
Like, I know, that's so rare. It's 12 ounce too, so that's probably good since we're recording later. But it's 8.6% ABV. But this time of year, like a lot of our local breweries don't do festive beers until literally like the week before Christmas. Like Tactical's dropping 2 tomorrow. Ivanhoe does pretty good. They dropped the Nutcracker one earlier, and some of the bigger breweries that distribute throughout Florida, like J Dubs does one.
The Grinch one tomorrow.
Yes, I'm hoping to get that this week, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it over there tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw sending packages of stuff out to other people. It's cool. No, it's fine.
Well, I had other beers for you, but instead of filling your box with beers, I had to shove Crocs in there. So that's why you only got 2 beers. I actually have 2 other beers that I bought for you that are in the fridge.
Don't disrespect.
So for anybody not watching on YouTube, Matt just pulled his shoe off and he is wearing the Christmas Crocs that his wife and I conspired to get him.
Mickey Christmas Carol. What's that? What's that? Oh.
Hey, I got a Mickey Ugly sweater on.
You get your little blankie. I got my Crocs. All right.
And I got my blanket. Yes. Because I was laying on the couch watching Muppets Christmas Carol. Now we're recording.
That's a classic.
But years. It smells sweet, but it doesn't taste overly sweet. So it's actually kind of nice. But yeah, so basically
poured it in a glass and everything. Of
course, it's in my Buddy the Elf glass because I figured
it's bonfire night. You know, we're all just drinking out of bottles. I was just trying to relive my degenerate days, I guess. I don't know.
But yeah, I got to hit up the Total Wine once for Halloween and once for Christmas to get as many festive beers as possible.
I need to do the same. Well, I don't have Total Wine. But anyways, regardless, you didn't come here to listen to us rant about nonsense. We have a guest. Laurie, welcome to the show. You are a fantastic comic book writer. We're going to be talking about one of your comic books that were briefly tied to Christmas, mind you. So we'll talk about that in a second. But why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself, tell us how you got into working on comic books, of course, and then kind of like your origin story in that realm.
All right. I am Laurie. My writing name, I guess, is Laurie Cunningham. I just picked that for fun. Really, there's a famous soccer player called Laurie Cunningham, and I'm like, well, maybe we'll be confused, and like, my name will just be like at the bottom of the list.
Every time they search, it's like you come up and you're like, yeah.
No. It's like a black male soccer player.
Oh, is it? See, I know nothing about soccer. That's the one sport I know nothing about.
There's also someone pointed out to me there's a Laurie Cunningham who actually lives like 3 hours north from me, who's like a lawyer and was like convicted of murdering her family and stuff. So I'm like,
yikes!
You don't want to be confused with her either.
Right? You want people to Google and find you.
It's like an O.J. Simpson thing where you're writing stuff. So it's like if I would have done it, if I was the lawyer who did it.
Yeah. But wow. Anyways, random tangent on names. But yeah, so I kind of like kind of fell into comics. There's been a whole bunch of random coincidences. Like I started trying to get into more of like the novelist kind of thing where my background, like way back when I was little, I wanted to be a cartoonist and stuff, and then went very academic and ended up like all over the place, but eventually in accounting and like business and stuff. And then I got laid off and then got pregnant and all this stuff. But yeah, so basically like I ended up doing this kind of businessy trip over to Ghana, and I had a travel blog, and people were like, just to kind of like connect with people, and like anything special, like not as an official travel bloggeress or whatever.
No, that counts. You're an influencer. You're a blogger. You went
an places. Influencer. my mom and my dad were huge followers.
Well, see, it's more than you. My mom doesn't even listen to this podcast. So we're good.
Yeah, my mom watches like all my stuff. I don't know if my dad does, but my mom's like right in there. I don't even know if she likes comics at all.
My dad will give me edits.
I don't know the stuff stuff whatsoever, but by God, I am here for it.
Yeah, for sure. And so then my partner was kind of like, well, maybe you should take like a creative writing class and stuff. So I kind of did that. And then one of the assignments was to join Twitter and like start an author platform. And then basically from there, like once you start telling a whole bunch of strangers that you're a writer, you're kind of like, maybe I should like write a word or two, actually do this. And then it was just a whole bunch of like coincidental connections. And I met Hades or Paul Hayden, and he's kind of like, hey, we have like kind of similar sense of humor. Maybe we should do like a writing project together. And at the time he was doing the 9 to 5, but he was working on a comic book with an artist, and they're like looking to submit it to like Dark Horse and stuff. And then eventually they're kind of like, what if we just like started a comic book company? And then the artist, for various reasons, decided he didn't want to do that. And then Hades started doing it himself. And I was kind of on the sidelines being like, go you. And I just had a baby and was like trying to write, but it wasn't really working very well. And like postpartum depression and just like the whole like, you now are responsible for like a human.
You have to keep this human being alive right now. Do you understand the pressure?
Well, and when they nap you, there's only so much time to do literally everything you need to do with 2 hands.
Yeah, for sure. And like sleeping, the whole like, sleep with the baby sleep. I was just like, I haven't showered in like 3 weeks. So like maybe
like, in theory, that's great, but I also would like to like have some sort of a life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. One time after like I think it was like in the last year or something, Mom was like, yeah, we went over one time and like you stunk. I'm like, thanks.
What they should have said was, let me hold the baby. You go have some time to yourself.
Yeah, why don't you go shower? We'll take care of the kids. Do whatever you need to do. It also know you're disgusting right now. I'm like, oh wow, awesome.
Basically. So yeah. So then but time kind of went on and I was trying to get back into writing, and Hades had started working on the comic book company plan. And he was like, hey, do you want to like do a project together? Because we kind of talked about doing this anthology, like basically around an event. And there was like going to be a whole bunch of different perspectives. And then he was like, well, in my comic book universe, there is literally something called The Event and we could do it for that. So at the time I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, I'm overwhelmed. That's crazy. Like, I have no interest. And then like by the time, like before I even got off the call, I'm like, I thought of my first story. So I'm like jumping in. So yeah. So then we did that and we wrote basically an anthology, and like each wrote 8 stories, and it's like I have it prepared. But yeah, so it's like came out like this, and it's like this like awesome. Sweet little flip book and whatever. What? So like half of it's upside down. So it has like the light stories on one side and the dark stories on the other. And in the middle is like the event. So it's kind of like a countdown to the event, and then the event, and then all the chaos and all that stuff. So
that sounds awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, and we were like had tried like doing it on, we were like putting it through Amazon and stuff originally, and Amazon like sent us the proof, and then they're like, actually, we're not going to print this. So we're like, what? Because yeah, they didn't want. Yeah, the Bezos. But basically it was like, yeah, we don't like half the books upside down. Like that's not like quality control, like flag that. Just
like, my God.
I do not understand art.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that was it. We're kind of just like, well, do we change it? And like we already had like Kindle out there, and the Kindle was very like the boring, like here's everything right side up because you can't turn your computer like upside down kind of. So we're like, fine, we'll do it. But yeah, eventually we're just like, no, like this is super cool. Like we had like the whole thing like planned and figured out how to turn our PDFs upside down and stuff. And so printed it and just put on the website. And then we slowly kind of like as the business has gone, had a few things on Amazon, eventually just pulled everything back and put it on the website. And we're just like, we're going full indie, like screw Amazon essentially, and all like the bigger places and stuff. But yeah, but from that anthology, we'd kind of been writing stuff separately, and then had to come together and been like, okay, let's make sure our timelines work. And we kind of wanted to like have a few like Easter eggs to cross over the stories. And we kind of got this one story where I'm just like, oh, the timeline doesn't make any sense. So I had to like cut off the last half. I'm like, well, now what happens to her? So I have to like rewrite the whole ending. And then we kind of came up with this idea, and I like wrote it, and at the end, he's like, this is a comic book character. I'm like, neat. Like, what does that mean? He's like,
cool. What's
you
this?
should write a comic book. And like, I had like, it was still like kind of like out of it. Like, I was just like, no, like I want to be a novelist. I want to write, or like something like that. And what wasn't on my radar at all, but like the seed had been planted essentially. And then is sucking me in. He's like a hard guy to say no to. So I'm like, well, in theory, like, what if I did this? And I'd read some of his scripts and stuff. And basically he was like, yeah, I can kind of like walk you through it, and started writing a comic book. And then like, I think it's like a year and a half later, I have a comic book. So that's where we are today.
So this comic book, it's Sister Grimm.
Yep, I have that here too for you.
Look at that. It is. We've read it. It was really intriguing. So before we kind of get into it, I don't want to spoil too much for people because I want people to go out and read this. But how did you come up with this comic then? And then what went in behind it? How did you just give us the rundown? How did you end up, hey, this is a great idea to tell in the comic book story for your first one of all of them?
Well, I think essentially, like when we started reading the anthology, so basically like the whole premise is there's this big like catastrophic event in London, and it's just like this army of terror and people's like worst nightmares and stuff, and things start leaking into the world. And then so the very first story I wrote, and like we actually did this thing where we like haven't told most people like who wrote what, but then with Sister Grimm coming out, it's like, okay, I wrote these ones. But like the first one was I wrote it from the daughter's perspective. Mm-hmm. And then like the second one I wrote from the mom's perspective. So like the first one, they're fleeing London, and the second one, she's a doctor and she's going back. And then while she has it, she's having this near death encounter, so literally like a physical encounter with death. Like I'll give away some spoilers, like that's the anthology, so whatever. But and then basically this like thing happens when this big experience. And again, like things have been out enough. We have trading cards that say she's like half Grim Reaper and stuff. So basically this one thing like turns her into half a Grim Reaper. We haven't like explained why or anything yet, but then that's where like, so the comic book picks up 3 months after the event, and she like wakes up in a morgue, and she doesn't have any of her memories. She doesn't know what she's been doing for the last 3 months, and she doesn't know where her family is, and she's just trying to like get home. And that's kind of this whole thing, just like the first issue is just trying to her like get back home.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, this kind of kicks off where she wakes up in a morgue with a toe tag of all things, and she just,
I felt like she didn't seem surprised. She seemed inconvenienced.
Business as usual. She's like, oh no.
So right away I was like, there's a lot more going on.
Yes, perhaps. Well, yeah, and I think, and that's kind of like throughout it, she's kind of having like she doesn't have like her full memories, but she has like some flashbacks and stuff on like kind of what's going on.
Interesting. Okay. See, yeah, that's what I like about this is there are certain comics that go dialogue heavy, but what you do is you kind of chose to show more than tell. And I feel like that's kind of a lost art in comic books. A lot of people don't choose to do that, where you have these beautiful artworks that can tell a story. And that's kind of what we get in this comic book. Like
really nice, because it was just going from page to page, very smooth, I felt like.
Yeah, I know when I like wrote this, because like in the other, so I've like finished this, I finished the second issue and we're working on that right now, and that comes out in January. But like basically, like the first issue is very much just her, so she's not talking to a lot of people, right? So, and I had that discussion with Hades. I was just like, there's not a lot of dialogue, and I'm kind of one of those people who like likes to sit with a comic and like read it, and like I don't know, I feel like something in my mind feels like the more time you spend reading it, the more value you get out of it. Whereas like in theory, if it's art, you can skim through it like pretty quickly. Like you're just like, oh yeah, panel,
right?
Okay.
You get whatever you put into it.
Yeah, so like it doesn't like slow you down because you're not reading all, like obviously there's like some dialogue in here, but I had that size kind of like, should I have like a narration? Should I have an internal monologue? And his advice was totally just like, no, just let the artist tell the story. And like, so I'm just like, okay. So just like a lot of trust. And like my artist, this was his first comic too. So it was kind of just we were both like just working together. And I'm like, okay, man, like we got this.
How did you?
And then like,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, how did you end up then finding your artist? Was it just like, hey, I've got this idea. Would you like to? Or how did you guys get connected?
So we actually got connected through another artist through ASAP. So I had been looking for an artist for a while because we are kind of looking for a certain feel and budget and all that stuff and various things and just like a good fit. And we kind of like had talked to a few, and just for various reasons it hadn't worked out. So, but then one of our other artists who draws some of the other comics in for ASAP, he basically, he's down in Argentina and he's just been like, hey, I know a person. Hey, I know a person. So we actually have like a vast, like Argentinian, our little artistic department. That makes it sound very formal. We have some artists who are from Argentina, but like, yeah. So, and this guy's the same thing. So he was from Argentina and he sent his portfolio and we're just like, oh yeah. Like he had this like sweet, like gritty kind of like watercolor vibe. And I'm like, this like really works for like, cause like the whole thing is like, we're looking for something that's obviously dark because it's like death. It's very much like a focus
type. Yeah,
but like grungy because I didn't want it to be like pretty necessarily, but like it is kind of this like melancholy like family story of her trying to find her family. So there is kind of like, I did want that kind of almost like beauty, I guess, is kind of feels like, but like I kind of think of it as like melancholy where it's like,
yeah.
So it's kind of that mix between like like the colorful and like, I don't know how to explain. I'm a writer. I don't know how to explain all the palettes as much.
Look,
it was dark, but it was,
like
I mean, I don't know, maybe poignant kind of because it's sad. But it's also, I felt like, with you not having so much dialogue though, it made, me question things and want to know more. Well, so I feel like I've never written a comic book in my life. I haven't written anything since I had to.
I've talked an awful lot about how I want to write comic books, but I haven't actually.
Well, I do write beer blogs, but that's just, researching and regurgitating and Disney blogs, but coming from my own brain, I don't make things up, as evidenced by what I'm saying at the moment. But it was just, I thought that makes you want to read issue 2. Like if you're creating mystery at first, you got to hold off. You can't answer all the questions in the first one. So yeah, I thought it was dark, and beautiful and sad. And, it's like
they say that there's beauty in death, and that's kind of what this story gives you. And it ends with kind of like a guy just touching her and be like, hey, who are you? So it pulls you into the story even more because you're like, I have so many questions now, because you guys do such a great job of telling it with minimal dialogue, and you're actually able to take in what's happening on the page more so, and it sucks you in, and then you're just like, wow, so now you are hooked. So how many issues are you guys, because you talked about the second one coming out in January, how many issues are you guys planning on doing?
So we've kind of set up all of our comics or titles so that they're all starting with a 4-issue arc. So it's kind of like a main storyline gets answered, but the idea is that there's a few loose ends kind of dangling out there so that we can continue it on if it gets traction, I guess, essentially. But like also enough that in theory that like if we decide not to carry it on, like there's enough closure where people aren't like, it's not just like, no, like you canceled it. Like when people cancel
it's not like Netflix.
Season, you're like,
Netflix cancels after season 3 and you're like, oh.
Yeah, so I think that's the idea. Like there's a few like main storylines of like the main storyline will be answered. So like you'll have some kind of catharsis at the end, but there's a few kind of danglers where like, okay, like if it continues, kind of what happens. So that's what we've done with all of our titles is the plan. So they all like have the 4-issue kind of idea. And then they're kind of, there's like right now, like I think we have 5 titles out. and then we're turning the anthology into a comic book right now too. But so everything's kind of like linked together, but right now everything's its own separate story. And there's kind of like sprinklings, like this one happens 3 months after the event. And then there's 2 that are a year after, and 1 that's like kind of around the same time as Sister Grimm, maybe like a little more of like a month after. So I forget all the timelines exactly, but yeah, it's
your own multiverse of madness.
Essentially. And that the plan is to like eventually, if we carry them along far enough, that they do kind of like have some crossovers and stuff. So that's the hope that it gets big. Because we have like a whole bunch of like there's I guess 3 writers and then just a schwack of artists and stuff working on things right now. So the plan's to kind of weave things all together. Yeah.
Where can people find this comic and find the other works then? Is there like a Kickstarter, or where can people really come out and help like support you guys by purchasing?
Just from our website. So it's asapimagination.com. We did a Kickstarter way back for when Hades first launched the company, just for I guess Messiah was the flagship comic, and then we've kind of just done it in-house for now. And then like there's kind of talks with like doing maybe some more Kickstarters, just because it's like it's it's just a different audience. Like there is like a little community on Kickstarter, obviously, and people who just like, and like I know of on Twitter, it's just like, oh, share your Kickstarter links. And I'm just like, but what if we have comics and not a Kickstarter right now? And people are like, we're not interested in that.
You can do that? No, we don't do that here.
Yeah, we don't do that here. It's just like Kickstarter, nothing, or like Indiegogo or whatever. Like obviously there's a whole bunch of new ones. I feel like Zoop or something. I feel like there's a whole bunch of stuff that's been coming out.
I can learn a new one every day. It's just like with these pay, like Venmo and everything. It's like, what is this? Or these
yeah, for sure.
Like, what the hell is all of this?
Yeah, there's a constant supply of people creating apps to try and make you money, I guess.
I know, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I think that like maybe eventually we'll be doing another campaign event, but for now it's just straight from the website, and there's digital copies and there's print copies, and right now there's like a gift pack for Christmas and stuff where you get like all the first issues, and I think it's 6. I think there's 6 issue ones in there, so you get all the swag and the stickers and the buttons and all that stuff. Yeah, the posters. Yeah,
I love getting my hands on physical media, so like
yeah, me too.
People love to read on a computer, but me, I call me an old man, I guess, but I'm like, no, I need to actually hold it in my hands and see it, because computer screen, I don't know. I get headaches. I
gotta fold those pages.
I'm an old man. I don't know.
Yeah, and I find if I like download the digital, I'm just like, in my head, I'm just like, and now I've done whatever I need to do with it, and I just never read them. Whereas like I want to.
I like to have that collection you can go back to and be like, oh yeah, I have this, and you just pull it off the rack, and you're like, oh, I have this, and then I feel like you can appreciate the art a little more than through a computer screen, because you're just mindlessly scrolling almost at that point, not really taking it in my mind. Versus physically holding a book or physically holding things like that. Fewer things better than just sitting there and having it in your hands and reading.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it too is like I spend so much time at a computer, like not when I'm not momming, but like I'm also the editor in chief for ASAP. So I like do all the editing. So it's like looking at a screen.
Way to bury the lead. So yeah, I'm just a writer. Oh, by the way, I'm also this.
I also just like got a very fancy sounding title stuff, but it's just like, yeah, but it is. It's just like staring at a screen all the time, and I do have to like look at comics and like and sometimes I'm doing it on my phone and stuff. Like I'm all over the place just because like I'm like my main job is I'm a stay-at-home mom, so like this is kind of like on the side, but it's like still like takes a lot of time. So I'm just like, all right, well, I'm going to do all the editing on my phone. So I'm like, screenshot, like this part needs to be fixed. Screenshot this part.
It's exhausting.
Like super.
And sometimes you're doing it with one hand because that's all you have.
Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, so much social is like that too now, interacting with people and making plans. And it's like, yeah, when you want to get lost in your books. And I think it's just so much easier if it's literally a page turner.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
well, we just lost all of our younger audience. Not that
Everyone's
I think we had one.
Oh, okay, boomers. Like, guys, you just had to be there. We all met at the little green electric box, and whoever wasn't there by like 3:15, you're out. We're going on. We're doing our own thing, and people just knew to be there at 7 or whatever time on a Saturday, and it was amazing.
The boxes were bigger then too. I feel like they've shrunk.
I don't see. Do you guys see the big green electric boxes?
No.
I feel like now they're small and like skinny.
Yeah.
Or they're underground and
They're
don't
little.
exist anymore.
Yeah. Oh,
someone was yelling at my kids to get
now
off
they're
them.
making them safe and putting them underground.
Look, we got cancer and radiation poisoning. We liked it. Okay.
Yeah.
But
it's just like the little like high voltage thing.
Yeah, we sat on those bad boys and they were warm, and we're like, this probably isn't right, but that's what we did. We just had to be there. So,
yeah. Surprised we're not all sterile.
Yeah, no kidding. Wait a second.
I was counting on that.
I have two reasons to show that I was let down severely by my expectations. Going back to the comic before we move on, and is there anything you really hope that people take away from this story and any of your stories? Like, do you put a piece of yourself in there like artists like to do? Or is there anything like a big takeaway that you're really hoping for people to take away from these things? Take a drink every time I say takeaway, but
I think that whenever I write things, I'm just always hoping that people can relate and connect to things. And I think that's kind of the main thing, because it's like like this one's kind of dark, like, but I do like in issue 2, like it gets a little lighter and stuff because like kind of the side character makes his appearance and like is more like banter and wittiness and
hello everybody, I am here.
Stuff. Yeah, but so like, and that's kind of the thing where it's just like sure, this one's like sadder and stuff, and like maybe it connects with people, but like I think it's also fun just making people laugh and being silly and stuff. So yeah, just to connect with people can relate and stuff. That's all I really try to do with my stories.
Yeah. And it's a way for people to escape as well. And if someone connects to a story, they're definitely going to be more involved and sucked into it even more so.
Yeah. Yeah. Like one of my friends reads all my stuff and I was like, do I have any like really like consistent themes? And she's like, well, ever since you had kids, she's like, you really start like have like mom vibes and kids that vibes. But she's like, but it's all still very dark. So now you're just torturing children as well. So she's like, I'm not really sure what to think of that.
Like, well, children torture like, me. Try being a parent. So
yeah.
It's
no, that's a major horror element. Creating the whole like fear of like, I need to find my kid kind of thing. Like that is something that can be relatable, even if you lose your kid for 2 seconds or God forbid you lose your kid. That's definitely a relatable moment. I think to any parent, unfortunately. Yeah. I don't know how many times I tell my son we don't play hide and seek in public.
Well, that's in the anthology. We actually like tried to like pick fears, and we'd gone through this thing where like I found some thread where someone had listed their biggest fears, and like so many parents were like, not being able to save my child, not be able. So one of the stories in there were like, it's basically this woman stuck in a time loop and she drives off a bridge with her son in the back seat. And it's just like, it just like repeats over and over again.
Oh my God. That's literally like every, I think like anytime I drive over a bridge and the kids are in the car, I'm like 10 and 2. And if they're not in the car, I don't care. I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as a parent,
they're just texting, right? Whatever.
Oh, look, an alligator. We're fine.
Who cares?
Well, I mean, even as a parent, we watch things and watch horror movies or whatever it is, or even if it's not a horror movie, it's just, it could be a comedy and kids are doing something stupid because I swear to God, until kids are grown-ups, they try to kill themselves. Like, I can't tell you how many times that you just look at your kid and just what are you doing?
Self-preservation at all. They're just like,
so you
lick this light socket.
It preys on those fears, and I will agree. Like, okay, sure, we just watch another horror movie where this happens, whatever. But you put kids in it, and it's like, nope.
Pet Sematary, worst movie ever. I'm still mad at my husband for suggesting we watch that.
Things like that nature. You're just like, no, I'm out. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Plus, it was a little kid from Full House. I mean, come on.
All right. So I know we've been talking a lot about being the parenthood and the joys of parenthood. So speaking of, we all were talking about, hey, what is something we can tie this back into Christmas? I know Sister Grimm kind of takes place around the holidays, but to lighten the mood at the end of this episode,
we talk about ghosts.
As parents, we're going to talk about some ghosts. We're going to talk about Mickey's Christmas Carol, because if you're a parent, this is one that you throw on and the kids get sucked into it, or they think they're bored. I don't know. My kids go back and forth. Sometimes they're all about it. Like, it is what it is. So Lauren, why don't you take us away on the Mickey's Christmas Carol as our resident Disney expert?
This is probably the shortest Christmas Carol ever, but don't quote me on that because I just made that up. Yeah, it's to the point. Exactly. It's only 26 minutes long. It came out in 1983. And there's a ton of, I hadn't watched this movie in a long time, and I completely forgot that it is just littered with Disney cameos. We don't get that kind of stuff anymore. It's, like Roger Rabbit, but Roger Rabbit had Daffy Duck and Donald Duck on the same stage. It was a wild time then. But like Mr. Toad is in this, and you get, the characters from all sorts of different movies, from Robin Hood. Jiminy Cricket is one of the ghosts. So it's a lot of fun. It's definitely worth throwing on and kind of paying attention to all that stuff. And it was actually nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film in '84, but it lost to Jimmy Picker's Sunday in New York. I don't know what that is.
I don't even know what that is. Sunday, like the ice cream too.
Yes.
What does that even mean?
I guess they ate ice cream in New York.
Yeah, homework after the podcast.
Yeah, what does this even mean?
That could be on our, we'll look into that for next week. This was the first nomination for a Mickey Mouse short since Mickey and the Seal in 1948. So some of the really cool fun facts was when I was looking into this was some of the voices. So we got some first time voices and we got some last time voices. So legacies were made and ended in this movie. So this is the last time that Clarence Nash ever voiced Donald Duck, and he was the original voice actor in this movie. of the Mickey and Friends characters. It was the first time Alan Young voiced Scrooge, and he continued to do so in DuckTales. And of course, now we have the amazing David Tennant has taken over. Did you just say woohoo?
Yeah.
Is it possible to say DuckTales without saying?
I don't think so. My 7-year-old has been all about it. I didn't realize David Tennant. He's in DuckTales now.
He's Scrooge.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, really? He's Scrooge.
Did you know he's going to be at the Emerald City Comic Con that we got the press?
I did. I saw that when you sent me the link. That's awesome. So by the time this comes out, anybody who's heading to Epcot, they are taking what used to be the Kim Possible and Phineas and Ferb thing, where you go around the world with the little phones and you can make like the Stein sing in Germany and stuff. It's going to be DuckTales as of Friday, but you no longer get a phone. Of course, it is an app on your phone because Disney just wants you to drain your battery. My battery doesn't last
that long. Okay. Set up charging stations. Maybe.
I guess you can get a charger and then drop a charger off or something. I'm not really sure. But yeah, so that's happening. Rusty Taylor recorded for Minnie for the first time ever for this, but it was not used. However, she then became the voice for Minnie until she passed in 2019, and she married the guy who voiced Mickey, Wayne Allwine.
Wow, way to live to the stereotype.
I think that's adorable. I believe there was a Peter Pan and Wendy that worked at one of the parks that got married too. Just precious. Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs down because
they hate fun.
Crotchety old men who need the ghost spirits to visit them. Well, they were.
Well, one of them's dead, so. Or are they both?
I thought both of them were. My bad.
Are they both dead? I don't know. I thought Ebert.
I feel like there's one left.
I thought Ebert was still around. For some reason.
Well, now it's only 1 thumb down. So this movie was the only Disney movie that John Lasseter from Pixar was actually involved in as an animator. So I thought that was pretty cool. I love the warnings. So anybody who pays attention to the Disney Plus warnings, they are warnings we did not get as children. It says warning tobacco. And this movie is, what's funny to me though, is like this movie came out in 1983. Like that was a long time ago. It wasn't that long ago. And it's
blowing smoke while breastfeeding into their kids' faces.
But it still has the credits at the beginning, and it's actually the same year Return of the Jedi came out. And here's a fun fact that I'm going to ruin any animated Mickey thing you ever watch because it's been ruined for me. You never see Mickey's ears not straight forward. So no matter how he's facing, it's always just 2 circles on top of his head and her head and Minnie's.
Yeah, he has like the...
Yeah.
It's like Peppa Pig, how people's like, yeah, if you draw him face on.
That's true.
Terrifying.
Peppa Pig is terrifying. First of all, I hate their accents. Yeah. For some reason, they sound so pretentious in that show.
So I learned a fun fact about that show. There was an episode. Apparently, the spiders in England are all friendly and can't hurt you. So they did an episode called "Spiders Are Our Friends," and it got banned in Australia.
Well, because like, everything in Australia wants to murder you.
Don't pet them.
Right. Well, even here, I mean, we have brown recluse in Florida. Like, yeah, just stay away until you know what it is.
Idaho, we have black widows.
Yeah, we have black widows. More in the desert or like the grocery. Yeah. the urban legend of the grapes and the black widows.
Yeah.
I feel like that happened, but who knows?
We have the wolf spiders, but they don't hurt you. They just, if you try to kill them, they're babies and they have babies, like hundreds of babies scatter everywhere. I did it once. Now I rescue them.
Like I am set. I am all good.
Terrifying.
They're easy to identify though. The first time I didn't know what it was. Unfortunately, I was on the porch and I killed it. And then I felt bad. I orphaned all these baby spiders.
I don't feel bad because then I'm going to kill the baby spiders too.
Most of them end up dying. I just ran inside. When hundreds of tiny baby spiders scatter everywhere, you run. You don't stick around and start killing them. You run.
Look, to be fair, when I see a spider, I run, but that's neither here nor there.
Now I just put a glass over it and rescue it. So this movie, like I said before, it's filled with Easter eggs. I think one of my favorite is the weasels are in it, and they're from Ichabod and Crane. But to me, the weasels are from Roger Rabbit because that's an amazing movie. So it's really fun to just see all the Easter eggs, especially Mr. Toad as well, because we don't have his ride here anymore. Rest in peace, Mr. Toad. You can visit Mr. Toad at the Haunted Mansion. They do have a tombstone for him, and there is a picture of him in the Winnie the Pooh ride of him handing the deed to Owl. That's all I got.
Well. We picked this. So, Laurie, as a parent, how many times have you had to been subjected to this? Like, what is your experience with this movie?
Not too much. What my kids go for, and it hasn't been lately. Logan hasn't pushed as much, but it was Brielle and Kaylee. It's the Twice Upon a Christmas. So they tend to skip over this. Like this was more me little, but them, it's got to be that computer animated, like fast crap now. I love Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas, so don't get me wrong.
So yeah, but yeah, Laura, what is your experience with the Mickey's Christmas? Because we're all like, you said you could talk this one for days, or this is the one you could talk about. So what is your experience with this wonderful film?
So it's just my favorite Christmas Carol. Like I know people are like, no, the Muppets, or like everyone has their favorite, right? But yeah, it's just like, to me, there's not many things where I'm like, oh, every year I need to do this. Like one, I like listen to the Polar Express and read it, and then I like watch Mickey's Christmas Carol. I think that's all. We used to watch White Christmas and stuff, but like, then I don't know.
Kids aren't going to watch that. Yeah.
No one cares about it.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I think this is the first year I started. So my daughter's 3, and I started to show it to her. And she was the same thing. She was more into like Once Upon a Christmas, Twice Upon a Christmas. And I started to show this to her. And like, I remember being little and the giant being a little scary. And then something happened and we stopped before we got to the third ghost. And I was just like, we probably shouldn't watch the third ghost because it's terrifying. And she'd already watched like in one of the Once Upon a Christmases or twice, I guess they're not the Once Upon and Twice Upon, but there's one with Goofy and he's like trying to prove to Max that like Santa's real.
Once Upon, yeah.
And like, she saw Pete, and like Pete is always like kind of a grumpy, and she's like, I don't like that guy. And of course he's like the ghost of Christmas future and that one. I'm like, so not only is Pete the guy, the one character you said you don't like in this, but he's like menacing, and he's like all like, obviously it's like same thing. It's like the Grim Reaper, and like Tiny Tim dies, and like my daughter, I've had so many conversations about death with her where I'm just like, you're 3, like what? She's like, I don't want to grow up. Like tonight she's just like, yeah, when you get old you take your skin off and do a skeleton dance. I'm like, where are
she would go great with my son. My 5-year-old says weird stuff like that.
My 4-year-old does too. She'd be like, when you get old, you're gonna die. And I'm like, yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah, see, those 3 are gonna rule the world.
Like your hair falls out, and then you're like, again, the skin comes off.
Your hair falls out and you peel off your skin. I'm like, what? Like,
this is taking
where
a turn.
Have you learned this?
Right.
And then I'm always like, the very first time she brought up death, like she'd had a conversation with my mom about something because like the neighbor passed away, and like my mom explained like why this had come up. So I'm kind of like, you've been talking to your grandma again. I'm just like, where are you learning this?
I know. They just like come up with some of it, and then you wonder, like, and some kid must have told you this or something. But especially at Halloween, I remember the best was one of my friends at Easter time. Her son asks, they were going to church, and she's like, so Jesus was a zombie?
I mean, technically.
Right. So it's like they come up with this stuff, and it's like you can't even argue because they're just spouting out facts.
Yeah. Well, I'll even be sitting there, and the kids, my grandfather passed away 3 years ago, and sometimes my 7-year-old just be like, hey, Dad, I'm sorry your grandpa died. And I'm like, thanks. Like that was... And then we'll be on FaceTime with my mom, and they're just like, is your dad dead? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude, you can't ask these questions. Oh my God.
Oh man.
I feel like you just pitched the best like Easter movie remake though, of like zombie Easter.
Zombie
like,
Jesus
comes back and he's like patient 0.
Okay, but that's
instead of saying eat my body, he wants to eat other people's bodies.
This is my
and
body.
Drink their blood.
I was given like we have something here. Jesus
is that like
rolls
reverse
the
zombies, something.
Yeah.
A reverse zombie Easter remix. So
he heals people rather than killing them. Oh,
well, like they
eat my zombie body and you're healed.
The Rock, and Jesus comes out and he's a zombie, and so he starts just killing everybody.
Oh, Rock. I thought you said The Rock.
I mean, no. I mean, if it was The Rock, he'd probably leak some financial stuff about Jesus too. But that's neither here nor there. But you know, and he starts just turning Bethlehem or whatever it is. I'm not really religious, but he turns it all into zombies, and then who knows? Maybe what's his name who betrayed him, Judas, has to be the one to fight zombies. I don't know. In a plot,
Judas betrayed him.
I don't know. Whoever,
like Peter or John or
again, I'm not religious, so I can't.
Whoever has time and money. Watch this podcast. Listen to a movie.
I can call my daughter out. She'll come out and she'll correct all this.
Yeah, like zombie, like Abraham Lincoln and all that stuff.
Like, I did that.
Like zombie Jesus. It's time.
we could really go places with this. Like there's the people deserve the story to be told of what really happened.
Copyright.
They're like breaking off pieces of the cross to use to go and kill all the zombies.
Yeah. So actually, speaking of copyright, I have a fun fact I came across because anybody who's following us on TikTok and YouTube, you're seeing Matt and I are taking turns doing Christmas movie recommendations each day. And we're trying not to do things like we're not going to do Home Alone or Elf or all the movies everybody knows.
But you know what I got in the pipe?
Should I be? Is it a Hallmark movie?
Fucking right it is.
I don't have any Hallmark movies in the pipe, but I did do Twice Upon a Christmas. And so, in that episode because that too, it's multiple, it's an anthology of different stories, and multiple times they bring up the sleigh crash of 64. And I never thought much about it. I was just like, bro, 64 must have been a rough year. It's because Disney doesn't have the rights to Rudolph. And so they didn't have Rudolph to guide the sleigh that year. So it crashed.
That's surprising. They don't have the rights to Rudolph. They own everything else.
I mean, they might own it now, probably.
Rudolph,
but they didn't.
Your nose belongs to me.
They didn't when this came out. I think it came out in 2004. I mean, Kaylee was a baby when it came out. So, yeah, it's old.
Interesting. Well, guys, I feel like we've really accomplished something here, and we might have scared people away from ever having kids. I don't know. Or maybe you want to hear the ridiculous things
I'd be
that
scared.
they say. Like they just randomly go to people they just meet, and they're like, hey, how old are you? Do you have kids? Why not? That was a real conversation with somebody yesterday that I was hosting people for work, and I had to bring my kids along, and my kids were just like, why don't you have kids? And it's like, well, dude, you can't just ask people these questions. Like,
when your dad died, did he peel off his skin?
I'm sorry your dad died, but did they take his skin off? What happens here? My God.
That's how they make couches.
But as we wrap this up, though, Laurie, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you one more time, where they can find the comic book, and plug anything else you've got to plug.
So asapimagination.com is where you can find all of the comics, and ASAP Imagination is typically the handle on everywhere except Facebook. It's the old ASAP Comics UK. For some reason, they won't let us change it. I have my own personal website. I have lauriecunningham.com, and there I have some personal projects. Like I just released a little kind of parenting gift book called Babies with Rabies.
Yes,
so you can find that
talking
there.
About that, and it sounds incredible.
I feel there's I have it here.
That's amazing.
for the people who can't see it. So it's basically like zombie-esque dystopian parenting advice, kind of fun. So yeah, and then I'm very inconsistent across all my social media. I should probably pick something, but I'm mainly on Twitter as Laurcunn, LaurCunn, and then Instagram. I'm
Twitter's dying soon.
Laku
anyway,
Insta, and then I'm L.A.Cunningham on TikTok. Just super inconsistent. So good luck finding me.
Find her.
I don't make it easy. I play hard to get.
Like I said, it's okay. Twitter's dying soon anyway, so it's one less thing we all have to worry about.
Yeah, and I think I'm Laurcunn on Hive. I tried to do the Mastodon thing for a bit, but I haven't been on Hive since I made an account.
I don't think it's working either.
Yeah, I have an Android, and everyone's just oh, it's so glitchy with Android. So I'm no, it can't be.
I don't even know. Is that the one they created because Twitter was dying?
Yeah, it's Twitter and Instagram had a baby, basically. I don't know. I can't keep up.
I feel like all these platforms are trying to be like each other.
Well, and Instagram, you can now do away messages. So I'm just going to start doing AIM messages like I was in high school again.
I think that's what a lot of people
today
are doing.
I was in the Black Parade, and who knows? Maybe I'm going to go to the mall. Hit me up. I don't know. We'll see.
So Jamal, the guy we had on our podcast a while ago, I think we were talking about Mighty Jane, the hop circles. He had his I'll be right back. My mom has to use the phone.
I'm just gonna, start leaving away messages.
That was a dial-up joke.
I don't know, but anyways,
just losing more of your younger audience. What are they even talking about? Remember we used to go to Blockbuster?
Mom, get off the phone. You're kicking me off the internet. My crush is finally on AIM. I'm trying to talk to her.
Oh my gosh, I remember aiming my husband.
I was gonna say, tying it back to Mickey's, I think the very first time you had to see, did you have the thing on Sundays where it's the Wonderful World of Disney, every Sunday, 6:00? That's when you watch it. Now you can just stream it whenever, but for me it was my 13 channels.
Back in the day.
Yeah. We didn't have cable, so we only had Disney at certain times.
Yeah, that's us too.
You just had to be there, guys. You just had to be there. It was great.
It was a rough life.
Nostalgia for the times that we were begging for times like we currently have.
When we were cleaning, it's a hard knock life.
God. Well, anyways, though, thank you for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. And we'd love to have you back because you have some amazing stories. Like we haven't even scratched the surface of babies or rabies and things like that. So we will definitely have you back. And to everybody else, make sure you go to our social media accounts, Hobbs Geek News, and search all of our stuff, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have a Facebook page, which is our group there where we just put buffoonery out. And then, find our episodes by searching the same thing. So we appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next week.
Mickey, Minnie, and all of their friends invite you to celebrate the most wonderful time of the year as the Magic Kingdom proudly presents Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas Time Parade!
Once upon a Christmas time at Christmas, families gather around the Christmas tree. Once upon a Christmas time at Christmas, moms and dads and children all agree. These fairy tale for all is a time you will recall, with stories told throughout the years. So get ready for the night when Santa takes his flight, 'cause Christmas time comes once a year. Once upon a Christmas time at Christmas, candy canes and chocolate fill the air. Once upon a Christmas time at Christmas, Santa saints come to prepare. It's that very special time, and the magic that you'll find on that Once Upon a Christmas time. Once upon a Christmas time.
Hiya, folks! We're so glad you could make it to our party. It's swell to see you here.
I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. I'll be home for Christmas. If only you might
Don't you just love the holidays?
I sure do. It's my favorite time of year. You can't beat home sweet home for the holidays.
There's no place like home for the holidays. Everything looks so beautiful.
And everybody's having a great time.
Once upon a Christmas time at Christmas, friends and family gather round the Christmas tree.
Isn't this fun? All of our friends are
On
here.
a Christmas time at Christmas, we need a little Christmas now.
That's what makes the holidays so swell.
Yourself a merry little Christmas, and your heart behind is that very special time.
From all of us,
And the magic that you'll find
All of you.
on that Once Upon a Christmas time.
A very Merry Christmas.
Once upon a Christmas time.
Happy holidays, everybody. We're in our very my snowman. It's almost as good as mine. Hey, looks like you need more snow.